All right, today we are diving into something pretty special. It's a teaching strategy that's all about taking the hidden genius of an expert and making it totally visible and learnable for anyone. Seriously, just think about that for a second. What if, while you were learning to code, or cook a new dish, or even perform surgery, what if you could get a live audio feed straight from the expert's brain? That's the powerful idea we're going to unpack today. You see, the biggest hurdle in learning from an expert is that most of the real work, the important stuff, it all happens where you can't see it. This is what we call the expert's invisible mind. So an expert can perform some super complex task just flawlessly, right? And you, as the student, can watch every single move they make. But here's the catch. You can't see the years of experience firing off in their brain. You can't see the split-second decisions, the other options they considered and rejected, or the constant little self-corrections they're making. You see the what, but you totally miss the why. And this invisibility, it creates a huge problem, something called cognitive load. Basically, the learner's brain is forced to do two massive jobs at once. First, figure out the basic steps of the task, and second, try to guess the expert's hidden strategy. It's just a recipe for overload and a ton of frustration. Yeah, check this out. While an expert does all of this stuff automatically, on instinct, a novice is desperately trying to juggle all of these mental steps at the same time. They're trying to figure out the goal, invent a process out of thin air, guess where the pitfalls are, and then somehow figure out if they're even on the right track. It's exhausting, and honestly, it often leads to just giving up. So, how do we fix this, right? How do we build a bridge between what an expert does and what they think? Well, the answer is to make their thinking visible. Or maybe more accurately, to make it audible. And this brings us to the Think Aloud. It's a beautifully simple but really profound technique. Here's how it works. The expert doesn't just do the task. They narrate their internal monologue out loud, verbalizing their decisions, their checks, and their reasoning, all in real time. A Think Aloud just completely moves beyond a simple demonstration. It's like it pulls back the curtain on the whole decision-making process. It turns what was a silent film of expertise into this rich, narrated documentary where you get all the behind-the-scenes commentary. But, using this strategy effectively isn't just about talking while you work. There are specific ways to do it that separate a basic narration from a truly insightful one. So let's break down the playbook. Okay, this is the critical distinction right here. A weak Think Aloud is just narrating your actions, like, now I'm clicking the button. A strong Think Aloud reveals the strategy behind the action. Okay, I'm clicking this button because it lets me achieve X while making sure I avoid problem Y. See the difference? It's huge. So what does this actually sound like in practice? Well, a really strong Think Aloud often uses specific phrases. Think of them like signposts that signal a shift from what is happening to why it's happening. This first phrase is incredibly powerful. When you say, I'm choosing this because, you are explicitly modeling strategic planning. You're linking an action directly to a reason. It shows the learner that every single step is a deliberate choice, and it answers the why question before they even have to ask. Now, just as important is explaining the roads you didn't take. This phrase right here reveals an expert's process of elimination. It teaches the learner how to evaluate alternatives and understand the trade-offs that go into every single decision. And finally, this one. This models the expert habit of self-monitoring. It builds this crucial mental stop sign for the learner. It teaches them to pause, to verify their work before moving on. A practice that, trust me, prevents countless errors down the line. Now, this next idea, it might feel a little counterintuitive at first, but it is the secret weapon of a truly great Think Aloud. It's not about modeling perfection, it's about strategically highlighting mistakes. Think about it. What's the most valuable information for a novice? It's not seeing the perfect, polished, finished product. It's understanding the common traps and the dead ends that they are almost certainly going to run into. A great Think Aloud anticipates these pitfalls and calls them out. Using this phrase is like giving the learner a map of a minefield before they have to walk through it. You're flagging a specific danger zone and explicitly teaching them how to navigate around it. This is proactive teaching at its absolute best. And remember, this should not be a monologue. A great Think Aloud is interactive by pausing and asking questions like, hey, what do you think I should check here? Or, Any idea why I didn't choose that other option? You turn the learner from a passive passenger into an active co-pilot in the learning process. So, what's the end game here? What's the ultimate payoff? Why is this technique so transformative? Well, it's because it builds something inside the learner that lasts long after the demonstration is over. By making your thinking audible, you are essentially handing the learner a mental toolkit. You're letting them borrow your internal monologue. And this dramatically reduces their cognitive load because they don't have to invent a process from scratch anymore. They can use yours as a scaffold to build on. And here it is. This is the ultimate goal. As the learner starts to internalize these questions and checks, they begin applying them to their own work. They start to plan and monitor and correct themselves. This is called metacognition, thinking about your own thinking, and it is the absolute foundation of becoming an independent, self-sufficient learner. So ultimately, you're not just teaching someone how to solve one specific problem. You're teaching them how to think like a problem solver. And that is a transferable skill they can take with them to tackle any new challenge they face with real confidence. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. In your world, in your work, what is the invisible thinking that you do every single day? And how could you start making that visible to help someone else learn?